Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Today's webinar will feature Stephanie Andersen, Managing Partner at ZulaFly, and Alan Tangen, Head of RTLS Business Development and Sales at Cooper Lighting. As always, this presentation is eligible for 1 CE credit from the ACI. ZulaFly and Cooper Lighting are today's sponsor. ZulaFly is a real-time data gathering solution that collects data from any disparate system and presents this data in a customizable, unified user interface, primarily making use of real-time locating systems, RTLS, and RFID data. The company's software platform is non-industry specific, providing workflow, asset management, temperature monitoring, staff duress, analytics, and mobility across multiple industries. The dashboard solution saves facilities time and money for professionals in industries such as healthcare, education, manufacturing, hospitality, and gaming. Anywhere staff works in isolation or valuable assets need to be tagged and located quickly. We are going to do something a little different today. Instead of asking a trivia question, today we are asking you to visit ZulaFly.com, find their tagline, and chat it to us using the questions feature on your webinar dashboard. The first attendee to find the correct answer will win a Webinar Wednesday t-shirt. A couple of reminders before we get started. The first of our HTM mixers takes place next month, August 19th and 20th at the Omni Interlaken Hotel in Denver, Colorado. This event is supported by the Colorado Association of Biomedical Equipment Technicians. Over 100 attendees have already registered for this 2-day event filled with networking, continuing education, and vendor engagement. These mixers will provide a slightly modified, less crowded, and safer environment. To learn more, visit htmmixer.com. As I mentioned earlier, Stephanie and Alan are our presenters today. They will focus on providing a working knowledge of how RTLS applications can be beneficial in multiple industries, an understanding of the hardware offering the value add of RTLS applications, and the role that RTLS plays in contact tracing and social distancing. Alan, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you very much, Megan. Again, my name is Alan Tangen, and I'm the head of RTLS Business Development and Sales at Cooper Lighting Solutions. So first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today. For those of you who may not have heard of Cooper, we, together with Signify, we are the largest lighting company in the world. Stephanie and I are very excited to be here to present the next evolution of RTLS. So I have been involved with RTLS either directly or indirectly for the past 20 years. And RTLS has always fascinated me, but I have to admit, it's also frustrated me. Why? Because it's yet to reach its potential. While adoption has been increasing, it's estimated that only 20% of healthcare facilities have an RTLS system in place. And when it comes to other verticals, the adoption is even less. Today, I'm going to touch on why we need RTLS, some of the challenges with today's systems, talk about a different approach to RTLS, and go over the Trellix locate system. And then I'm going to turn the presentation over to Stephanie Andersen. So Stephanie is a founding partner of ZulaFly, who will go over the ZulaFly software and some of the use cases the platform can address. So today, because of COVID, we are facing even more challenges than normal. Hospitals have been struggling for years with enormous dollars in waste every year due to challenges with hospital-acquired infections, patient falls, and inefficiencies. Before COVID, 1 in 25 patients would receive a hospital-acquired infection. And these infections can cost the hospital anywhere from $25,000 and up per incident. Manual systems are insufficient in keeping up with assets, and hospitals never seem to have enough pumps, respirators, or wheelchairs and other mobile equipment on the ready. On top of that, their equipment pool shrinks on average by 5 to 7% per year. Now, obviously, COVID has not made things any better for hospitals. So who would have thought that we would have to focus on infection prevention in our schools? Yet here we are. How can we manage social distancing and contact tracing? In addition, schools unfortunately have a lot of violence. Not only do we have a high number of school shootings, we have an even higher number of teacher-student altercations. So how can we keep teachers and students safe. In office buildings, we are, of course, also dealing with COVID. How do we get back to the office in a safe manner? Commercial buildings are also inefficient. So according to the $330-$300 rule, for every square foot in a building, $3 goes towards utilities, $30 goes towards rent, and $300 goes towards things like productivity and payroll. Anytime we can reduce these, especially the $300 number, that can make a big impact for office spaces. Finally, companies are working hard on retaining employees, and employee well-being is a new area of focus. So how can companies make their employees more comfortable at work? More than ever, in order to solve these problems, you need data and actionable insights. And that's exactly what you can get from an RTLS system. So why aren't these systems everywhere? Well, they should be. But what are the challenges? So first of all, they can be very expensive, and they can also have very high maintenance costs. A large part of that is due to batteries. So you can have the lithium thionyl battery, which is a popular battery among some of the vendors. It has probably about 3 to 5 year battery life. Each battery, each and every single one, has a cost of $15 to $30. And hospitals, some devices take up to 6 batteries. So for an average building, you need several hundred to well over 1,000 battery-powered RTLS devices. And each device taking 6 batteries, that means thousands of batteries. And hospitals today are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on batteries alone. On top of that, you have to add labor as well as the disposal costs of batteries. And also think about how large a device needs to be to hold up to 6 D-cell batteries. So these definitely take away from the aesthetics of a building. A lot of the systems out there today also use proprietary technology. And when you use proprietary technology, you're also locked into tags from that one vendor. And because they're not to scale, the tags tend to be more expensive. The most popular technologies are probably infrared and ultrasound, and their accuracy is inherently good. However, you can cover up those technologies very easily, and therefore you get inconsistent accuracy of both the systems. And finally, you're dealing with questionable cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is definitely a big deal, as you can see from this slide. Many of the legacy RTLS vendors are smaller startups that do not have the resources to put a lot of focus on cybersecurity. So when you're looking into RTLS systems, definitely I would encourage you to make cybersecurity a high priority. So how can we do things differently? Well, much like the sensory network in our bodies, we can create an IoT sensory data network for buildings. And the sensors don't have to be limited to just location. We need to think bigger than just RTLS. In my opinion, the ultimate way to create an IoT sensory data network is through connected lighting. Everywhere there are people, there's lighting. Lighting has power readily available and is perfectly positioned to include sensors. In other words, we're elevating RTLS to something much bigger. Through integrated sensors and data analytics, we can not only enable RTLS, we can also enable applications for space utilization, for safety, security, and energy management. And in combining these applications, you get the smart buildings we've all talked about for numerous years now. And with the smart building, you get enterprise visibility. And when you have the visibility, you can optimize. So now thinking about RTLS being bigger, that does not mean a bigger sensor. On the contrary, the sensor can be almost as small as a dime. And in addition to position, the sensor collects motion data that can help understand utilization of spaces, control lights, and even regulate the temperature in a space based on occupancy. The light sensor can dim lights when the sun comes into a space for energy savings or measure light levels around patient wellness. Finally, the power sensor collects real metered power data that can help with energy management. This sensor can be integrated into every LED fixture, not just in a building, but also outdoor fixtures to illuminate pathways, parking lots, and garages. So through a connected lighting system, we can address all of the shortcomings of legacy systems. We significantly reduce the cost of the overall system. We reduce installation. We almost eliminate the maintenance. And through a standards-based system, it unlocks additional integration capabilities. Finally, with a platform that has more scale, we're able to provide the most advanced cybersecurity available today. So next, let's take a look at the Trellix Locate RTLS platform. We can start with an overview of the architecture. The system consists of badges and tags that transmit location data through BLE that is captured by the sensors. The sensors then transmit location data to wireless gateways through a self-healing 802.15.4 mesh network. And these gateways then transmit the data through Cat6 to the Trellix core server, where the data is aggregated before being passed on through APIs to partners such as ZulaFly and to the Trellix applications. A wide variety of badges and tags are available. The staff badge comes with a button that can be programmed to send direct messages and also has some RFID capability for access control. The environmental monitoring tag senses humidity and temperature and can be used to monitor ambient room temperatures and humidity in rooms such as data centers, or monitor the temperature in a fridge or freezer. We have several asset tags to choose from small to large, to ensure you have tags that suit the equipment you're looking to track. We have one of the smallest active tags on the market that will fit even the smallest items. After all, if the tag is too big for your equipment, it defeats the purpose of having an RTLS system. The battery life of the tags and badges range from 1 to 5 years. That depends on, of course, the size of the tag as well as the update rate. The update rate is programmable through a mobile app, and you can program one or a batch of tags at a time. Every single tag is defaulted to 1 second update rates. And so if you can have a little bit longer update rate, you increase the battery length of even the smallest tag. As the system is standards-based, it's possible to use third-party badges and tags on the system as well. So it adds a lot more flexibility over legacy systems. On the top left, you can see an example of a fixture with an integrated sensor. Obviously, this is ideal for new construction projects. However, if you haven't upgraded to LED fixtures, a lot of states have rebate programs that you can take advantage of. And these rebate programs, along with the energy savings of LED over traditional lighting, can essentially pay for your RTLS system. We have a wide variety of fixtures to choose from. We have architectural designs, we have ambient and recessed, and again, we have outdoor fixtures as well. And if you're looking for fixtures from another vendor than Cooper, we also have an OEM program where we can provide sensors to other manufacturers. If you've already upgraded to LED, that's okay as well. So we offer the sensors in tile mount as well as junction box versions, and these can be powered off 90% of fixtures out there, and that also provides you with lighting controls. And then finally, if there's a need to circumvent the lighting altogether, we can also provide the same tile mount and junction box sensors using cables and a power supply. For a quick overview of the design of the system, you then have your fixtures, and then you supplement with tile mount sensors where needed. And then you place your gateways that cover approximately 150-foot radius. And then you install our on-premise server. Our software works on both physical servers as well as virtual servers environments. The Trellix software suite is primarily used for system configuration, setup, and management. We also have applications for lighting controls, and we do have software for asset tracking and locating people. However, our focus is on the infrastructure and providing the best data possible. We feel we can offer a much broader solution by partnering with other vendors. But much like your smartphone, you purchase it with some basic apps and then add your own favorites. One of our favorites happens to be ZulaFly, and that's who you're going to hear from next. So thank you.
Thanks, Alan. So again, my name is Stephanie Andersen, and I'm one of the managing partners here at ZulaFly. What we're going to walk through is the software dashboard, the applications that we offer, and talk about the different industries that we see the increased interest in RTLS/RFID, and then wrap up with some things around contact tracing in particular, and then some differentiators of where we position ourselves and see ourselves in the marketplace. So this first slide speaks to the 4 big buckets for when we talk about RTLS applications that we offer. Mobility is what ties everything together. We want to give everyone access to the application, whether it be through their smartphone, laptop, desktop, and make the information very easy to access. So we group things around asset management, staff safety and staff locating, temperature or environmental monitoring, and workflow. And workflow we typically think of in a healthcare environment, but we also can provide workflow for staff or employees and also assets. Around the outside is where we've typically seen interest in RTLS, and Alan touched on one of them as well that we're starting to see some renewed interest in, and that is around smart buildings. So let's jump into the dashboard and the software so we can get a feel for what that looks like and the functionality that's available. The map dashboard provides an enterprise view of your system or your facility layout. The nice piece about this dashboard is that it's also a fit for a single standalone environment or building, a departmental deployment, or a multi-building campus. You can view multiple buildings in a single dashboard, multiple floors, and also within each of those map views, you can choose what you would like to see. So on one map, you may choose to view just expensive equipment so that we always can see where that's at. You may choose to show pull cords from a nurse call integration, or you'll notice up in the top left-hand map, the patient is showing red and has risen to the top of the left-hand legend. That patient has called for help, so we provide the visual on the map as well. Asset management is probably the most traditional RTLS application. And Alan had mentioned too, being a part of the RTLS industry for so many years, asset management seemed to be the most prominent that a lot of facilities would start out with. And the reason being is that an asset deployment would help prove an ROI that would then fund later phases for continued deployment of the applications. So within this dashboard, we have the ability to view again up to 4 different widgets. The whole goal is so that users can eliminate some of the constant clicking around to view what they would like to see. Because these dashboards are user-driven, it really allows a lot of flexibility for everyone to set up their own to really maximize that space. One of the big differentiators when we think about just asset locating is we allow each of our customers the ability to define the pieces of information that they collect and view within the system. We then can trigger alerts off of any of those fields and give customers the ability to report on those as well. PAR levels up in the top right. We do the traditional PAR level, which is setting up a minimum and maximum on supply closets or various rooms or locations. But one thing that we do differently is we also allow customers the ability to group locations. That way we can continue to right size their inventory so we aren't overstocking supply closets that don't need the extra equipment on maybe a floor of their building that isn't nearly as busy. We also then, of course, have the ability to set up exit alerts or restricted area alerts, which really help with equipment leaving the building that shouldn't be, which all then drives back to our hard dollar return on investment. We can also set up a separate dashboard for just rentals. And where that becomes really important is we can see rentals that are sitting idle. Maybe they've been moved into a hallway and nobody's using them any longer, but we haven't gotten them returned to our supplier yet. So we can set up alerts within the platform that will notify Biomed, for example, that equipment is ready to be returned. Another really common aspect of asset management is pulling in a preventative maintenance date from a capital asset management system. The benefits are twofold. The first one is a little bit more obvious, which is instead of staff spending days or weeks looking for equipment to provide the preventative maintenance, we also can set up an alert so that if pieces of equipment were to go into a patient room, for example, that are past the due date, we can notify staff immediately. Environmental or temperature monitoring is all encompassed within this single dashboard, making it really easy for folks to see everything they need to without having to leave this particular dashboard. We can monitor and report on all things temperature, humidity, differential air pressure, CO2 seem to be the most common, and those columns just get added with those pieces of information based on each customer's preference. We add location and owner columns that are flexible for customers to decide so that it really helps them view just those that are important to them and that they're keeping track of. We also have the ability to set up unlimited escalations, and those alerts can be sent out via any communication device that's already being used by the facility. The unlimited escalation piece becomes extremely critical, especially when we are talking about vaccines, pharmacy fridges, etc., to really make sure that alerts do not go unnoticed so that somebody is replying to those. Compliance monitoring then is also a piece of the temperature monitoring dashboard. The next two slides are going to talk about workflow, and they're going to show workflow from a healthcare perspective. But one comment I do want to add, COVID has been the hot topic for all of us for the last handful of months. And one primary piece of those conversations has been around how do we continue to utilize the infrastructure that a facility may put in place today for staff and employee contact tracing, but see the value of that long term. And one of the ways that they can continue to see the value is by having a phase 2 become asset tracking and potentially asset workflow. Especially when we talk to manufacturing facilities, factories that do have equipment moving around, this also helps them understand where those batches of equipment are spending time and potentially identify any bottlenecks that will help with some efficiencies as well. From a healthcare perspective, we integrate with any EMR or EHR system and pull in any patient data that a customer would like to see. As patients move around, you will always see within the dashboards where they're at, what phase of care they're in, is a staff member needed and they're ready for their visit with a provider? Do we need a nurse to come into the room? The color coding in the room states and phases of care along with the verbiage really help automate a process for a healthcare facility. So instead of me having to physically find a provider and let them know that the patient is ready, by them viewing this staff board, they know where they're needed next, which really allows them to see more patients in the same amount of time. The benefits continue with the metrics and the data, and how do we then continue to understand door to door where our patients are at? So this dashboard speaks to all of those things. Cycle time specifically is around where were they at, how long did they sit in the waiting room? I think all of us feel that sometimes it's longer than it maybe is, but now when patients receive a badge, we know for sure how long they did sit there. We're able to monitor those things in a real-time whiteboard. We're also able to send alerts if we do feel that patients are sitting too long and notify staff. But the cycle time report door to door will show us where all of our patients are at and how long. The Gantt chart is another nice metric that our customers utilize. And then room utilization. Within emergency departments, we sometimes feel that we don't have enough rooms for the number of patients that we're seeing. This allows us to see the data behind that and understand how long a patient may have been in the room before being seen, how long the patient was in the room with the provider or nurse, and then truly what is our room utilization rate for the groups that we want to take a look at. One of the key drivers around a facility of any kind implementing an RTLS system is the data. Whether that be location history for a patient or understanding where equipment is at or equipment that is leaving. Now with a tag on those items, we start to understand flow within our facility and also can help, like I've mentioned, speak to a hard dollar ROI for some of those pieces. We have a list of canned reports that customers all have access to. All of the data that we do collect is displayed within all of our dashboards, which you can print out of as well. And then we also provide access to our APIs for our customers. So very common that our customers are utilizing a business intelligence tool, a data warehouse, or enterprise service bus. This way they can pull in the RTLS data that really enhances all of their reporting, which leads to them being able to make better business decisions. We also have a report scheduler. So Alan spoke to battery life. So we can help with that by setting up the low battery report. We get that scheduled. That way we make sure that batteries are always changed before they fall off the radar. I won't get into all of the metrics that are on this slide, but I did want to show how a business intelligence tool leverages RTLS data to really enhance and make it that much more effective. So these metrics in particular are around patient workflow and staff and patient interaction. By utilizing the RTLS data, we truly understand how much time that our providers are spending with patients, how long are patients in an exam room by themselves, but we can then start to break down non-value added time to value added time and make some other comparisons. We also provide the ability to create a custom dashboard. We see this leveraged most of the time within administration of a customer or facility that's utilizing ZulaFly. They can mix and match. So we had shown the map dashboard prior and asset management, etc. But this allows them to grab those widgets that are important to them, run reports without having to leave this particular dashboard, see any staff that may be calling for assistance, but really maximize the dashboard space and eliminate the clicking around. So the hot topic that has really been at the forefront of all of our conversations is contact tracing. Contact tracing has been a part of our core application since day one. And some of the things that we've always provided our customers are now taking advantage of. Unfortunately, when all of this, we saw a big uptick late winter, early spring, we reached out to all of our customers to remind them of the contact history report that they already had access to. Some quickly started utilizing that, and some had beat us to the punch and were absolutely aware of it and had been using that in particular to understand who had been in contact with who. One of the value adds of the contact tracing report is that when running that report on somebody that I know is infected, I do get to choose how long that individual was in contact with someone or something. So I may not care as much if they were just passing by each other in the hallway, but I may care if they were in contact for 10 minutes. So I do have that flexibility to choose the time frame that people or things needed to be in contact in order for them to show up on this report. The report then, of course, shows locations and their duration time. The middle screenshot is speaking to capacity levels. And we talk about this in a different fashion for asset management around PAR, but the same concept applies to capacity and being able to quickly visualize and assess risk around contact tracing when we think about bringing everyone back into the office and folks getting back to work. What we can do is we set up a minimum and maximum staff count on conference rooms, maybe it's locations of the manufacturing shop floor, or other areas of our office buildings where we know that there cannot be more than 4 people in this area and they continue to socially distance. So we can use the visual of this dashboard to quickly understand if folks are following those guidelines that have been provided. We can also alert. That's completely optional. We have some that choose to utilize the alert to let maybe facilities know. The bottom right hand, the graph, the nice piece about that is it helps us identify trends. So we can set up social distancing alerts, and we can then look at this report, and over time, we really hope that that continues to go down. We hope that our staff are following, again, those guidelines that are being provided, the 6 feet, and maybe it's 10 minutes that is our guideline for them to be in contact with each other. But all of these things are part of our core application for contact tracing that we now are able to see other facilities take advantage of as well. As part of contact tracing and the reports in general, location history reports on people and things, even if equipment has been in contact with somebody, it's important for us to know that as well in case there's any cleaning that would need to be done. This slide I leave till the end because it really talks about a hub and spoke approach with the ZulaFly platform sitting in the middle. So as you might be listening to this webinar thinking about existing hardware applications or existing hardware systems that you have in place, and could we utilize some of those, but maybe replace the real-time piece with something like a Cooper Lighting that's more cost-effective and easy to deploy. We like the size of those tags. What our platform allows you to do is we can pull in multiple data sources to a single customer. And because staff is utilizing the ZulaFly dashboard, the source of the information becomes a little bit irrelevant. I put these ones around the platform because these are the most common that we get asked about. All integrations can be two-way. We talked about the capital asset management system. We've talked about nurse call, EMR. Active Directory, especially within our large customers, is very common. That eliminates the need for them to manage and set up any permission profiles manually. And then down in the bottom left, we look at different tag types and different technologies, but utilize the platform to take full advantage and really utilize RTLS to its fullest. So my last slide, I always wrap up with the differentiators because this is a really common question and we get asked about this all of the time. So we talked about the power of the platform, and I really can't emphasize that enough. But utilizing our rules engine to talk to different systems, to send out alerts, integrate with communication devices. We absolutely encourage our customers to take advantage of the platform and leverage everything that there is to offer. Each customer implementation is customizable. And what I mean by that is, we talked about it when we were looking at the asset management dashboard. Customers choose the fields that they want to see. And this really becomes important that staff see their verbiage. They aren't seeing fields that aren't being utilized. And then in turn, it quickly helps with staff ramp up time because they feel as if the system is theirs and developed for them. So customers, we will spend time, they get to choose the information that they see. All applications are in a single user interface. So if a customer starts out with asset tracking or asset management, besides that it's very simple to add on temperature monitoring, they don't leave the ZulaFly dashboard to access any of those other applications. They're all housed within a single UI. We spoke to the ability to pull in data from multiple data sources. Non-industry specific, where this has become really invaluable to us, not only in the last couple of months around contact tracing, but we have a lot of partners that participate in multiple industries. And this application has allowed them to learn one set of use cases, one set of applications that can be deployed across multiple industries. So asset tracking applies in education, manufacturing, hospitality, staff safety. I'm not sure if I could think of an industry where staff safety isn't of importance. And so it's really, we see some that are niche, but this has absolutely been great the last couple of months as our partners are getting pulled into conversations with customers outside of healthcare, looking for an application that they can provide for contact tracing. Customizable dashboard, we've talked about that's per user instead of a one size fits all. And that makes it really nice for biomed to see the things that are important to them, or HR being able to view information that's important to them. Last, cloud hosted. We cloud host through Microsoft Azure. We've seen a nice shift the last couple of years to facilities moving to cloud hosted. One less server that they have to take care of, but then we also have the customers that have their own data center and we can deploy on premise as well. So the option is really nice and we leave that up to our customers. So with that, Megan, I will turn it back over to you for the Q&A portion.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. And thank you, Alan, for those great presentations. We really appreciate it. It was very valuable to everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. You guys jump in whenever you're ready to go ahead and answer. But the first question I have from our audience is, how quickly can the solution be deployed?
So Alan, I'll take that first and then please follow up from a hardware perspective. So from a software perspective, one of the advantages of cloud hosting is the ability to get up and go very quickly. When we talk about COVID pop-ups, that's where we can deploy in a matter of hours. 1 to 2 is not uncommon. And then also as we think about larger deployments, there's parts of the process that we do in tandem while the hardware is getting installed, but pretty quick and painless process from a software perspective.
Yes, from a hardware perspective with lighting, if it's installed with the lighting, it's obviously a very quick process of just putting in light fixtures during the construction phase. So it's a little longer if it's after the fact, but it is still pretty quick.
Thank you. The second question is going to be for ZulaFly. Can ZulaFly help with producing an ROI for an assessment management deployment?
We can, and I spoke to a few talking points around the hard dollar ROI when we looked at the asset management dashboard, but we absolutely do work through with our customers looking at their spend prior to deploying an asset management system and post-deployment. So we'll look at kind of a nice go live where all of our equipment was tagged. And then on a quarterly review, we'll look at what was spent on replacement equipment that's no longer leaving the building or from overstocking supply closets. And then we'll also look at rentals as well.
All right, and then our last question for today is, how do you prevent cybersecurity attacks through your hardware? And this would be for both of you.
I can start that one. So we go to great lengths to secure our system. Cybersecurity threats are definitely increasing, and as probably everybody on this call has heard of people's identities having been stolen, for example. So we use we have our system certified by UL. It's our 2900 listing. And that's a series of standards that they developed for their cybersecurity assurance program for assessing product weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and security risk controls. And it's an annual, you have to recertify annually. So it's, as everybody also knows, that cybersecurity threats continually evolve. So the certification also needs to be renewed annually.
From a ZulaFly perspective, we of course collecting patient data or any employee or staff information. We do follow all of the HIPAA protocols and security regulations around maintaining the data accuracy and protection of everything that we do collect.
Thank you. Now, I actually had a couple questions come in while you guys were answering. Is it okay if I do maybe a rapid fire? They just came in.
Yes.
Perfect. It says, is the system HIPAA compliant?
Yes, it absolutely is.
Great. And then I have one more question, and this is for Cooper Lighting. It says, lights are typically centered within the room. What is the potential latency of recognizing a person has entered or left the room?
So we do have some other ways of detecting as well that we use. So it's a rapid, within a couple of seconds after you enter the room. But as soon as you're over the threshold, you're recognized.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you going off the fly on that one. And I appreciate you and your presentations today, and I thank you for your time. I enjoyed your presentations, and I'm sure our attendees did too. I'd like to encourage everyone to visit today's sponsors to learn more about the solutions they provide to our industry. And a quick reminder to obtain your certificate for 1 CE credit from the ACI. Please remember to click the link located below this webinar title to complete today's survey. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinars@mdpublishing.com. We will be back next week with another webinar. Visit webinarwednesday.live for more details and complimentary registration. Thank you and have a great day.